Welcome to the second edition of the conversation on financing of urbanization and urban development in India. In the first session we had yesterday with three renowned scholars, that is Dr. Ravikant Joshi, Dr. Partha Mukhopadhyay, and Professor Jyoti Rimani, we had quite an interesting session on why and how we do not have adequate resources to invest in urban infrastructure, economic growth, and employment generation. I'm deliberately using these three words. It was pointed out that country is investing less than 1% of its GDP in the urban sector, much lower than required. And a substantial part of it of late goes into metro, which is about 40%, and PMAY about 30%. With this disproportionate amount going into these two items, there's little left to invest in core basic services such as water, sanitation, bus-based transport, and of course, economic activity. Cities are no longer places to live alone, not just dormitories or residential places. They have an additional identity as growth engines, and therefore, urban planning cannot be just land use planning and infrastructure planning. It was pointed out that just 2% of the investment pie goes to livelihood activity, even though cities have a vibrant informal sector crying for low-cost infrastructure facilities and institutional supports for productivity enhancement. So this was a large number of things we discussed yesterday, but this came out very clearly, and I thought I remember it much clearly. Today's session is on 16th Finance Commission and is aptly titled Crystal Glazing. Thank you, Ravi Sir, for this title. Crystal Glazing, Impact of the 16th Finance Commission on Urban Governance. The 16th Finance Commission of the period 2026 to 31 provides a record rupees 3.6 lakh crore for urban local bodies, a major 230% increase from the 15th Finance Commission. And it is meant to boost urban infrastructure and service delivery. The allocation has prioritized water management, sanitation, wastewater system, and fiscal empowerment of cities through both united and special grants and targeting sustainable, technology-driven urban development. We look forward to hearing that take from Dr. Ravikant Joshi, who is the lead presenter today, and two respondents, Shri Hitesh Bhai Vaidya ji and Astha Agarwalla ji. We look forward to hearing from them. But we have many questions. Ravi Saab, will this money reach our cities? Will it be used properly? Is this money enough for the task on hand? Even if we have the money, do local self-governments have the capacity to use this money properly? What about the small cities? Will they get their share of resources to be able to play a role in the country's growth and development momentum? We have high ambition, $30 trillion economy by 2047. Can we reach there without the cities firing on all cylinders? Is it really possible? It is only, and I'm just pointing out this, Ravi Saab, I'm sure you must have seen this. It's only a coincidence that today the Indian Express has carried a lead story on its editorial page, suitably titled, Finance Commission Strengthens Local Bodies. That's the title. But at the cost of the states. The essay is written by an ex-minister in Jammu and Kashmir government, and you are a municipal man, Ravi Saab. We are keen to hear you on what he is saying. We do not have time to quote the full last paragraph. I have it here. But let me share the last few lines and let me quote. What he says is this. Local bodies, it's a big article, it's a very powerful article. Local bodies as institution of self-government promote decentralization, but operate under state oversight with limited and derived autonomy. While strengthening local governance is welcome, equating or subordinating state level needs with that of the third tier dilutes the federal compact. And read it again. What he says, subordinating state level needs with that of the third tier dilutes the federal compact. And then he says, promoting decentralization should not be used as a pretext to harm federalism. What do you say, sirs? And I'm very keen to hear you on this. It's a very interesting article, and I thought this is just absolutely topical today. It appeared this morning. While waiting to hear you on this, let me share with you the brief introduction of the three speakers. Dr. Ravikant Joshi is a renowned urban finance and management specialist with over 40 years of experience in India and internationally. He is a former Chief Accounts Officer of Vadodara Municipal Corporation. Currently a member of the Government of India's High-Level Committee on Urban Planning and consultant to institutions such as the World Bank and CRISIL. He has led key reforms, including implementing accrual-based accounting across Gujarat's municipalities, contributed extensively to research and publications, taught at leading institutions, and supported capacity building and civil societies initiatives. There's a lot that could be said more, but this should do at this point of time. The first respondent, Shri Hitesh Vaidya. Hitesh ji is duping me all the time. He is complete me. He never comes to my webinars, and I think I've been talking to him all the time. He's a distinguished urban development practitioner with over 25 years of experience in policy design, in project formulation, and large-scale program management. He has worked extensively with global development institutions, including the United Nations, the World Bank, and USAID. Prior to joining the National Institute of Urban Affairs, he served as country representative of UN Habitat in India, where he played a pivotal role in shaping the ecosystem for the design and rollout of India's flagship urban missions. I think there's a lot that can be said, but this is introduced the same. Dr. Astha Agarwalla is an associate professor and program chair, this MBA in urban management at CEPT University. An urban economist by training, her work focuses on the interface between markets and urban development, with particular interest in how economic structure shapes cities. She holds a PhD in public system from IIM Ahmedabad, where she examined the impact of urbanization and infrastructure investment on productivity growth across Indian cities. So we have these three very brilliant people talking about crystal grazing, I think, on 16th Finance Commission. And my last take half a minute. And lastly, let me briefly tell you why we have been doing this webinar series for the past 4 years. This time, I'm not talking what we're doing, why we're doing it. I'm saying very quickly what we have done. One, this is 144th session of the webinar series on rethinking cities we are running for last 4 years. Over 600 urban experts and professionals have shared views, perspectives, and solutions on this platform. Over 300 hours of recordings are in public domain on INHAF website and YouTube. And knowledge products include a book called Conservation in Indian Cities, Bridging the Gap, based on 3 webinars we conducted, and a new book titled City Economies in Global South, Growth, Inclusion, and Sustainability, based on some 7 webinars and other contributions, is being published by the world-renowned publisher Routledge. So this is my responsibility of introducing you, giving you context, and telling why we are doing this webinar series. With this introductory remarks, pretty long, to you three. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirti bhai. It's a pleasure again to be on this platform. Let me share my presentation. I'm really privileged that Hitesh and Professor Astha Agarwalla ji are going to be discussant of my presentation. Both are renowned urban practitioners and academic scholar. And of course, Astha ji, I will be interacting first time, but Hitesh and we have a very long-standing 20 years, 25 years relationship. So I'm really privileged and honored. Is presentation visible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Possibly, I think you could maximize it. I think, I don't know.
Yeah, I have maximized.
Okay. Yes. Now, yes. Now, yes.
And
yes.
And
yes,
it's
yes.
moving also.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I personally have very high regard with whatever role in Indian urban finance system central finance commissions have played, because all right from 10th Central Finance Commission, which of course didn't get much time to dwell upon it at that time. 74th Constitution Amendment came into force, and they had less time. But 11th Finance Commission onward, there has been consistency, and they have many times gone beyond their constitutional mandate also, particularly 13th Central Finance Commission, and have taken path-breaking initiatives. So 16th Finance Commission is also in tradition of that, has come out many of first of its kind reforms or recommendations, and also has continued the reforms introduced or the systems introduced by the earlier Finance Commission. At the same time, nobody can be perfect. Certain aspect, even if you don't wish, they get missed out, and they can have the impact. So we will look into that. And because 16th Central Finance Commission or Central Finance Commission recommendation create lot of gravitation, lot of impact, so it becomes important to contemplate and discuss whatever new ideas they are bringing forward and whatever impact would be of their recommendation. So this presentation is about that. Again, let me say that, let me put in place that I really liked, and for last 25 years, every time, every Central Finance Commission has brought forward certain new aspects and certain new recommendations and reforms. What are the first of its kind recommendation of 16th Central Finance Commission, to my mind? And they need to be appreciated, they need to be discussed. The very first is linking state transfer to the allocation of the FCs. What Central Finance Commission study has found out, 16th Central Finance Commission study, is that states are giving differential level funds to the urban local bodies. Of course, it's not a right place to mandate states that certain amount should be provided. But at the same time, a minimum can be recommended. And that is what 16th Central Finance Commission has taken a view. In fact, if we look at the report, this kind of a comment or suggestion had come from the central government itself. The Ministry of Finance and Government of India has put forward view to the 16th Central Finance Commission that the primary responsibility as per the constitutional mandate of urban local bodies is of the state governments, and state governments should adequately fund them. So what 16th Central Finance Commission has proposed is it has mandated state transfer to urban local government at least at the rate of 20% of the FC grants. Means whatever grants 16th Central Finance Commission is giving, at least 20% of that should state be providing to the local bodies. And they have created one state performance component grant, a component they have created in which they have provided 29,000 crore as a performance grant. It means if state comply this condition, they will be able to claim this performance grant. The states which won't be able to do that, money will go to the states which have been complying that. Another next thing is the primacy of the untied grants, the fiscal decentralization. See, devolutions by the Central Finance Commission or the State Finance Commission are the epitome or the what we can say are the foundation for the fiscal decentralization. Most of the Central Finance Commission reports have given larger untied grants with certain few conditions, but untied grants means which are not linked to the conditionalities, and municipal bodies will be free to use as per their local needs. That portion sometimes varied from 40% to 60% to 70% also in earlier, correct? 15th Central Finance Commission had taken another view, and though the intentions were good, the actual amount that 21% of the total allocation which they had given to the local bodies, only 21% was the untied, and that was only to the smaller municipal bodies. All the metropolitan level municipal bodies, whatever allocation that each individual ULB will receive was a tied, means to be utilized for a specific sector and for specific purpose with the certain condition attached. 16th Central Finance Commission has again gone back to the primacy of the untied grant, because anywhere in the world, what really constitutes fiscal decentralization is how much money is coming to the subnational government, lower level government, as an untied grant, where the freedom is to the local government or the recipient to decide and utilize them as per the local needs, not top-down approach or not dictated from the top. So 60% now out of the total amount will come as an untied grant. Also, they have gone in their report clearly stating that even if the tied grants, and those tied grants means they have said that the 40% amount should be utilized for the water and wastewater and sanitation. So that three things which are the primary things at the local level. So there they have said that, well, that 40% of the basic grant should be utilized for that purpose. But then again, there will be a freedom to the local body to utilize that tied grant for the specific purpose, but as per the local needs. No other further conditionality. How they should use, how much, which kind of project they should take, nothing. They will have to use 40% for wastewater and water kind of infrastructure creation. Next point they have taken is a own source revenue improvement by urban local bodies as a criteria for horizontal distribution of the grants. Various criteria are taken by that, but last two finance commissions had taken that 90% weightage will be to the population and 10% weightage will be to the area. So how to distribute? The horizontal distribution means on that factor, amount is distributed among the different local bodies. Depending first to the states, depending upon the state's share into the total urban population of the India, each state share, and the area, urban area of that share. Having each state got the money, again it get distributed on a ratio of 90% weightage to the population and 10% to the area. Here they have brought a new and very welcoming feature where they have said not now 90% weightage to the population will remain. So depending on each city's urban population, they will get the money, and that population would have 90% weightage. But 10% weightage will be to the OSR improvement, that is own source revenue improvement of those urban local bodies or all the urban local bodies together in the state. It is going to having a far-reaching impact, and in fact, that impact is visible if one go and refer to the 16th Central Finance Commission report. Then there is a table where the allocation, state-wise allocation is given. This total amount is there, and then how much each state will get using this 90-10 formula, 90% for 90% weightage for population, 10% for efficiency, or we can say improving the own source revenue. And that has a greater impact. For the first time, because of this, the states, in the states where the municipal bodies are doing efforts to improve own source revenue and have a better CAGR or growth rate, will be getting more money. So, cities are able to improve their OSR when they get more autonomy, when they get more resources in their hand and powers to improve that. And also state addresses the political economy issues at the local level, and then cities will be able to raise the OSR. So that will incentivize states to take steps to do the facilitation, to do the necessary changes into the act and various administrative government GRs to give more powers and to put more pressure on the local bodies and to manage the political economy to increase the OSR, because that OSR improvement is important. Yesterday also we discussed that OSR, own source revenue of all the municipal bodies together constitute just 50% of the total they received. Another first kind of recommendation is special grant called urbanization premium of rupees 10,000 crore. In fact, Hitesh ji was also part of the report which was prepared by the World Bank regarding the census town and how they can be converted to the statutory municipal towns and how they can be incentivized. So over the years, there was a talk that census towns are not being converted into municipal statutory towns, and states have earlier. One Central Finance Commission has also tried a negative incentive wherein the states which are not converting census town to municipal statutory towns will get the less allocation. But here there is a now positive incentives. So it provides that if a state merges its census towns which are around a city which is more than 1 lakh, that is what we call peri-urban area, that is merged, or the census towns are merged with the cities with the more than 1 lakh population, then they will get a urbanization premium, that is a funding to manage that transition. Because when such new areas are included, naturally, immediately you can't tax them more to the level of the original city in which they are included. And naturally, peri-urban or such census town have less level of the infrastructure. So the main city has to put in much more infrastructure into that cost before it can start getting in the form of a user charge and tax. And also that transition requires additional capacity building, and also to help entire that thing, 10,000 crore rupees has been provided, and that will be given. And also it has asked states to prepare a scientific, transparent, consistent, a conversion policy, how those rural areas will be converted on the basis of certain principles, certain yardstick norms to the urban areas or municipal statutory areas. So that's a very landmark thing. I was also part of that report, but Hitesh has played more pivotal role than me in that report, shaping that. Special infrastructure grant of rupees 56,000 crore. This is over and above the original amount which is given, wherein this for wastewater treatment in 22 cities, which are between 1 lakh to 1 million to 4 million. If the city is more than 20 lakh, then 5,000 crore rupees project can be, and 60% of that will come as a grant. A city can take up to 5,000 crore big project, and the cities, so within this group, there is a part which are less than 20 lakhs or 2 million, can put a 3,500 crore rupees project, and 60% will come grant from this 56,000 crore. Because in last 10 years, under the Smart City Mission, Amrut, Swachh Bharat Mission, lot of this infrastructure has got created, which need to be sustained. Means Suez lines have been laid and all that, but what really is the end point, that is the treatment should happen of that to achieve the final result. So again, this is a very laudable suggestion, specialized grant for this purpose. So see, this is a tied grant, but again, it is saying that for that city. And this tied grant is over and above the untied grant which is given. Then what it has done is improving predictability, accountability, and transparency regarding transfer by states to the ULGs. See, at the moment, yesterday, as I discussed, there is an entire vacuum of urban data. As I said yesterday, only consistent data you get is state level, government of India level budgetary allocation, and how much actually fund was allocated and how much was actually released, and also data about the centrally sponsored schemes like Smart City Mission, Amrit. You get a lot of data, complete data you get, how that scheme is progressing. Come to the state level, how much exact money is going to the urban local bodies. In fact, this was an earlier also suggestion by the 13th Central Finance Commission to have an appendix to the state budget wherein all this data would be provided, saying from, because local bodies sometimes receive these grants from the main department, like whatever urban development department or local self-government department at state level. But their money comes also from other departments, and also state government spends on parastatals and on other urban projects directly or indirectly. All that should be at one place available to bridge this data gap. So now states will have to transparently report all the transfer to the local bodies they have done in Appendix 3 of the state finance accounts. Not only earlier 13th Central Finance Commission has said that there should be such appendix to the state budget, but now they are saying annual state finance accounts, this appendix. Also, it restored the municipal function, primacy of the municipal functions. What I mean by, for example, 15th Central Finance Commission, we know air pollution is a big cities, in top cities, top polluting cities. We get the numbers where almost most of them cities are from India, and all that, all said and done. So air pollution is a very big issue. But what happened, 15th Central Finance Commission, while intentions were very good, really laudable, they said that money, whatever money they allocated to the municipal bodies, out of that, for bigger cities, those 45 metropolitan agglomeration they are carved out, 50% was given for the air pollution. Now, though air pollution is important, air pollution is not a municipal function. No way air pollution by any local government is managed. So what happened, that money came into the municipal account, but actually it didn't receive to the municipal body. So actually municipal bodies almost lost 70,000 crore rupees. They came into their name, but they had to put up the air pollution measuring machines, who will be then monitored by somebody else, or had to transfer that money to the traffic police. So somewhere, though that was important and that money should have been given to the pollution control boards or state government special grant, but putting it into the municipal account, as I earlier said, it reduced the quantum of the untied grant to the only 21% because of that one good initiative. And this is the point I'm saying. You don't intend to do anything wrong to the local bodies, but sometimes a very well-intended reform can misfire or can cause a different kind of a impact. And that is what we are looking. Now, what 16th Central Finance Commission has done, it has removed whatever money was given for the air pollution. And as you can see, it has provided all the money to the municipal bodies, largely for untied portion, tied portion to be utilized for water and wastewater and sanitation, with a freedom to use it as per local needs. And then third, additional 26,000 crore, 56,000 crore, specifically for 22 cities, which are selected with the name, individual names, and then they will get this money specifically, which are of a large size. Beside this, first of its kind, salient features which we find in earlier Central Finance Commission reports, they have continued. As earlier Kirtibai said, 231% increase, but actually Kirtibai it is 291% increase. If we 94% increase, if we add all the figures which I said, additional amount which will be going in the hands of the local bodies, the special 56,000 crore grant. Also, there is a city performance component additionally of 29,000 crore. And state performance component 29,000 crore. Also, that money ultimately will go to the ULB. State will get it by doing its own part, but that money is for local bodies, which state will get and will pass on to the local bodies. So this 58,000 crore plus 56,000 crore and the original allocation of a basic grant to the local bodies, that all put together becomes 294 crore. And 15 Central Finance Commission earlier gave 1 year interim report and then 5 years. So that was a 6-year period. If we proportionately do it, then it goes to 330%. The important is not a percentage, because earlier 13 Central Finance Commission had given 462% growth. As I said, that was a landmark. But you can see this line showing that it was coming down, and particularly in the case of 15 Central Finance Commission, total increase was just 139%. And within that also, as I said, large chunk went for the sizable change, not very large, but sizable chunk went for the air pollution, which was not a local body function or the core municipal function, we can say. So it's a 294% increase, and that is on a, you can say, a larger foundation. See, if base is lower, then the percentage may look high, but on a higher base, when you provide higher percentage, so yes, a large increase, and that will definitely help municipal bodies, because they will get more funds in their hands. Not only they will get more funds in hand, those will be untied, and even tied funds will have them freedom to use as per their local needs. Second salient feature is adopting realistic share of the urban population for allocation. Every Central Finance Commission has slowly and gradually tried to bring allocation to the urban, to the realistic level of the urbanization. Of course, initially we had more on a rural side, but slowly and gradually they were inching towards, means for the first time 2013, SFC utilized 2011 data. Earlier, Central Finance Commission had utilized 1971 data of urban population. So making it realistic to the actual urbanization level, and 16 Central Finance Commission has now taken 40%, which is a projected yesterday, as I said, it's a census of India's projection. Of course, in 2 years' time, we'll know exact urbanization but 2019 census report has projected it will be 40% by 2031, and taking that figure, 16 Central Finance Commission has allocated 40%, and if we add all other additional special grant, then actually it has given out of the total kitty to the local government 45% to the urban local bodies, which will also be more in tune with higher level of the urbanization, which is pointed out by the other reports. So it has tried to balance that. So actually, it is now realistic to the whatever is the urbanization level, official urbanization level. Informally, urbanization estimates are much more, but nonetheless, this is a big achievement. And the graph also showing you how that graph is going up. Beside these two, it has, as I said earlier, city performance grant component it has introduced, wherein it has said that urban local government will qualify if they achieve 5% growth in their own source revenue year on year. So a city has to achieve, yesterday we were discussing, there is an issue with the own source revenue there. So there is a here specific incentivization for that. Of course, I will be talking later on 15 Central Finance Commission efforts to link property tax increase to the SGDP growth rate, correct? 16 Central Finance Commission has dropped that condition of property tax growth rate should be equal to the state GDP growth rate for ULBs to qualify for the grant. There are reasons behind that, but that I will come on the next slide. Then it has continued with the entry-level financial accountability and constitutional mandate condition. Financial accountability means municipal bodies must be publishing their annual accounts in a public domain. That's the condition 15 Central Finance Commission introduced, 16 Central Finance Commission has continued. Also, 15 Central Finance Commission, earlier Central Finance Commission had put the condition that election must be conducted by the state government of the local government. Also, so those constitutional mandate conditions, correct? That also been continued. So this grant will, these are the entry level condition, means a state will qualify, a local body will qualify if they do this. Then publication of the service level benchmarks by all urban local bodies. This was introduced by 15 Central Finance Commission for 45 metropolitan agglomeration. They had introduced this condition. Now 16 Central Finance Commission has extended to all. Yesterday also we discussed this issue that what data we are getting today is in quantitative term, that this much amount got spent or did not got spent. We don't know that expenditure, how much quality of the service level has gone up. Means we hear that, okay, 1 lakh crore got invested in urban water supply, but how much per capita water supply or sustainability of the water supply or number of the people getting potable water through a tap connection, those are service level benchmark. And what is the improvement that data is not available? That has now been made applicable for all ULGs, and it has instructed MIUA to set up a third party assessment, because there were earlier efforts way back in 2007, 8, 9, when Government of India prepared a service level benchmark and was made part of the say NIURM, this thing. But later on that didn't go ahead, and again wherever the service level benchmark are published, data quality or authenticity of that data, there was no third party assessment. So it is saying that such kind of a third party assessment and audit mechanism to ensure quality and reliability of data to be introduced, which is again a very landmark recommendation. Timely disbursement of grant. Here also again 16 Central Finance Commission, today up till now what was happening, whatever conditions has been placed, if at a state level all those conditions are met, then the money will be received. If few urban local bodies not meeting the conditions, then entire thing will get held up. Now they have specifically said and mandated and recommended that the grant to be released to the ULBs who have met the eligibility criteria. So no state level this thing, but whichever ULB is meeting the eligibility criteria, release the grant. Don't wait for entire compliance of the state or larger number of the ULBs. And then it has asking again urban data issue, which we discussed, and yesterday I made that there is no national or state level agencies, independent agency putting credible, transparent, consistent data about urban finance and municipal finance or urban service improvement. So here again 16 Central Finance Commission is recommending extending the urban data platforms capabilities by the state government to support ULBs in preparing accounts and other financial reports. So all IT solutions and all that. Well, as I said, there is nothing wrong, but certain aspects get missed. Nobody's God. And they can have some of the repercussions, or as earlier 1 or 2 example I give, certain well-intended things may have unwanted results. So let's look at what are the certain aspects At the same time, I have to say that even if Central Finance Commission, 16 Central Finance Commission hasn't provided them in their report, it doesn't mean that, because it is not their duty to provide. If they would have provided, it's good. The point which I am discussing, which can be done by the state governments and the local bodies. Nobody stops doing those reforms. It is not like that Central Finance Commission has to say and then only do. So even if they are not in the 16 Central Finance Commission report, other apparatus and other institutions very well will be able to implement it. And therefore, the purpose of pointing out that, well, if these would have got included, it would have been Sone pe Suhaga, what we can say. Even if they have got missed out, they can be implemented. It's not necessary that they should have been said by the 16th Central Finance Commission, because there are many instances, various good reforms and recommendations made by the Central Finance Commission hasn't seen the day of light. That's also the fact. What I find is that they drop the condition, FC condition of rise in the property tax be at the same rate as a nominal GSDP as a smaller ULB spike. It's a perfect thing they have done. What their research showed that the cities which have less than 1 lakh population, the condition to have property tax growth, annual year-on-year growth equivalent to the SGDP was wrong. At first place, such one-size-fit-all condition should not have been there. Correct? But that's a gone, because it was done by the 15th Central Commission and no calibration was done. But 16th Finance Commission has corrected that. So what it has said, no more that kind of a condition, which is a very right step, a step in a right direction. Instead of that, it has adopted, which OSR is a larger thing. OSR would include not only property tax, but also would include other taxes and the user charges, water user charge, solid waste user charge. So it's a larger concept. So 5% increase in the OSR condition under the local body performance grant. So it has removed that property tax condition from the entry level and brought it only and limited to the performance grant condition, which is just 29,000 crore. So a city achieving 5% would get money of its performance grant from the 29,000 crore, that is city performance grant component created. Only my research shows, and the data which 16th Central Finance Commission has provided, is that OSR, if we take right from the 2000, during the 2018 to 22 period, the data which 16th Central Finance, already there is a 10% CAGR. So municipal own source revenue has been increasing at 10%. There is some what we can say, some inflation in that figure. But then and later on in my new research, I will be pointing out that whatever OSR has been estimated, that is inflated one. The real OSR is little less, but that's not the point at the moment, because that research is going on. So, but still, even if that inflation is removed, I personally feel 8% or 7% growth municipal own source revenue has achieved from 2018 to 2022. If I take long-term average, the data right from 2010 to 2022, 12 years period, municipal own source revenue has increased at a rate of 8%. Now, if OSR has already increased at the 8%, this 5% I don't see. Of course, it may be possible that 16th Central Finance Commission was not privy to this data, that already municipal resource own source revenue has increased at 8% across the India as a overall. Some cities may have achieved more, some may have achieved negative even, but as a whole nation, all the municipal bodies together, municipal own source revenue as per the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 Finance Commission data, we take RBI data, it shows 8% own source revenue. Also another point, so that this should have been, I feel, 10%. Correct. OSR should be 10%, not at the rate of, say, nominal rate of the GDP or SGDP growth, but at least 10% should have been instead of 5%, because everybody will qualify. Everybody will qualify means there will be some cities who are not achieving, and I know the examples where cities are achieving just 2% growth in the OSR, less than the even inflation. So sub-inflation growth, many of the municipal bodies and even the bigger cities are achieving, and actually their revenue in real term not growing, but that's a different issue. Second issue is that again, this becomes a one size fit for all. See, bigger cities should be able to capture, because it is the cities which are the growth engine. And if country is growing at 10 or 11% nominal growth rate, GDP is growing at 10, 11% in nominal terms or 12%, states are achieving SGDP growth of 10% to 12%, 13%. And if cities are not able to achieve the bigger one, million plus cities, then there is something wrong. They are not capturing the economic momentum, which the point yesterday I made. So here also, again, there should have been calibration. This 5% OSR growth, I perfectly agree, would be good for cities which have less than 1 lakh population, because they do not have wherewithal. They do not have that much gravity, that much economy. So somewhere here again, a property tax conditionality, which was a harsh conditionality, and one size fit all removed, but new condition is very lower and it is benefiting. So it is something like in the context of 1 lakh now, even if Mumbai or Pune or any big city achieves just 5% OSR, that's fine. That will not make, as Kirti Bhai earlier said, cities cannot be left to themselves because they are growth engine. And Vikasit Bharat vision depends on the this growth engine firing to the full steam. So this will not serve the purpose. That is my crystal gazing. I hope I will be wrong, but this may not lead to. So it will derail the OSR improvement, which was envisaged, which was the vision for it, but it may not happen. So that's a very low performance condition. Even same thing, low performance condition, state transfer at 20% of the FC allocation. Barring one or two, three states, there may be other reasons, but states are, in fact, states are transferring much more. They are compensating the default of the local bodies. As I said, our cities are not, in fact, during 11 to 18, cities were not growing, correct? Growth given to the state transfer. And also I said this bodies will get
Ravi sir, we are missing. Yeah.
Hello.
We were losing you, huh? Okay, that's fine.
Okay, now it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so like that 5% OSR, which again one size fit all. There I have recommended the paper which I have written that actually for million plus cities, it should be equal to the GDP growth or SGDP. The cities which are less than million but above 5 lakh could be 75% of the GDP. Then the cities which are between 1 lakh to 5 lakh should be at least 50% of SGDP, and for 1 lakh and below cities, 5% OSR should be the thing. So that could be the way forward. Then there is no remedy if state government not meeting the constitutional mandate. What data, even 16th Central Finance Commission or earlier 15th Central Finance Commission, they show that the total amount which is taken is 75 to 80% because conditionalities are not met. Now, when conditionalities are not met and the whatever amount Central Finance Commission has provided not being taken up, means who lose it? Even if state is not able to take it and local bodies, ultimately local bodies lose that money. And yesterday, as I said, on an average, 20% is the money which is not taken up. Means 15th Central Finance Commission provided whatever 1,27,000 crore. The actual figure would come 20% less actually flown to the cities. So earlier also there was such kind of intimation. Again, intention was good. Index of decentralization was introduced, 11th Central Finance Commission. Then another index of devolution was there. But ultimately, if that doesn't happen, the state gets less grant and then the city gets the less grant because that money is meant for the local bodies. And local bodies are no way responsible for that failure. Correct? So there should not be conditionalities on the state government, which state government may not be able to fulfill, and ultimately the local bodies will suffer because local bodies have no locus standi in doing those reforms. Then non-mandating parties, it could have gone for what cities lack is a project planning or city CIP, but will CIPs or capital investment plan or city development plan, strategy plan, whatever. As I said earlier, 16 Center Finance Commission doesn't need to put it. If they would have suggested, because they have discussed very well the preamble for this. So therefore, I'm saying they could have recommended this because they have at large discussed lack of data issue and lack of project planning or execution capacity, which yesterday we discussed. So that is the issue. And finally, though it has discussed that they were not able to get the data, which earlier Central Finance Commission has discussed, even 16 Central Finance Commission faced that problem. They also noted that 15 Central Finance, because of the condition of the 15 Central Finance Commission to get the grant, that local bodies must put the annual accounts in the public domain. But not only yesterday I said, but 16 Central Finance Commission on its own report has looked into it and said that the quality of the annual accounts or the data, annual financial statement put in the public domain is poor, is not adequate. So though this whole thing 15 Central Finance Commission introduced was for the transparency, and that transparency has not been achieved because as I yesterday said, there is no due diligence of it, no independent verification or that kind of a rigorous quality monitoring by the audit agency. There, 16 Central Finance Commission could have pushed more for transparency. I will stop here. Again, let me say, whatever missed out points are there, they will be always there, and they are not very constitutional. Correct? They are not going to create a great harm. Rather, whatever first of its kind recommendation which 16 Central Finance Commission has done, and whatever reforms it has continued, will definitely will help municipal bodies and in urban local government system to strengthen, because it has given more strength on a fiscal decentralization. Correct? So it will pave a new way forward. Now, only issue which Kirti Bhai has earlier raised, will that money reach to them? Will it actually transform the thing? That is not in the hands of the 16th Central Finance Commission. It will be in the hands of the different apparatus and the institution and the entire governance systems and all the parties involved. I will stop here. Thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Ravi Saab. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Do you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we are able to hear.
No, thank you.
We are not able to
much.
see you.
Yeah,
you are not facing the camera.
Okay.
You are lovely facing.
No, nothing. I'm now my camera. My beard is getting longer. Ravi Saab, I think, thank you very much. I think, what I was thinking all along was this, that the clarity with which you put things together, I don't think anyone can bring it to make it. It's not easy subject. It's a difficult subject, and you put it so beautifully. It looks like a kind of classroom, a school classroom. You the kind of school teacher, and it came out beautifully. Thank you. It's very comprehensive. It's very good. It looks after just about everything, and it does enormous justice to the whole thing. I don't think I need to say anything else. And I would then move over to Hitesh Bhai to pick up from here kind of questions that you have. And of course, whatever supplement you want to do. You have 15 minutes, but you take your time as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirti Bhai, and thank you, Ravi Bhai, for such a great presentation, and all my panelists, Astha and all Really happy to be here. First of all, I take this opportunity to say that. But I think such an insightful presentation, and Kirti bhai already told that you were like a teacher telling the student. So I'm really learned quite a bit. I don't have much to say, but what Ravi bhai, you have done excellent job of crystal grazing, and you did definitely demonstrate uh, all the ingredients which will be available to the cities. But all these ingredients put together, and what Kirti Bhai said, will come out with a good dish. I don't know. I'm not sure of whether we ingredient only because if ingredients could make a good dish, then it would have been a very easy thing to do. So how all these ingredients come together, I think the time will tell, as you have already told. Thing, but I'll just reflect what you said in five broad thing, and my five broad areas which I will reflect on is direction, scale, capacity, governance, and outcomes. So these are five areas where I will talk about. Uh, Definitely, you had talked about all the direction issues, and I definitely agree with you that direction is right. The Commission has strengthened the basics, performance linked funding, focus on own revenues, recognition of urbanization. I think all them sounds very good. It's like we are bringing the right ingredients to the kitchen. That's sure. But uh, my only concern, and I will just put it, flag it here, while we are moving from the what you said is more toward the financing discipline from the financing deficits, uh, are we empowering our cities or merely scaling centrally designed compliance? I'm not sure about that. So that's my point number one. I do agree that it gives us strong signals, and it does talk about cities as a central of economic growth story. But bigger mind is, are we just cities are just being told to do something where the all everything the rules of the game has been decided at the thing, and somebody has put up a question also, which is what is the role between the center and state SFCs? I think that need to do so. Either CFCs become a part of SFC. So I think the whole timelines and others should be also be looked at, but I'll not get into that. I think you will respond to that later. The second point, which I talked about, scale, is definitely funding has increased. We have more money, but we also have a structural gaps. The whole issue of 74th Amendment we have talked about. I'll not talk about it, but you talk about urbanization and peri-urban areas and all. Definitely, I agree with it. But I'm still confused because, as far as my understanding, the population which they did for all of that was 2011 population, and we are 2026. And even we bring these peri-urban areas, even though with the urbanization premium, the denominator effect, the per capita money to the cities will get reduced. So how do you really duck it? Right now, you have 2,000 rupees per capita. It might come down to 978. That's my rough calculation. So how do you really bring? And second is, who is the driver for bringing this? And that's another Pandora box, which I think we need to really think of. When the shift happens, whether it happens rural development shift to urban development will pick up these cities and bring increase the base, then who is responsible? Is rural development shifting it to urban, or urban development shifting it to rural? I think that clarity has to be brought. And Finance Commission has talked about transitional policies, but I think those roles and responsibilities, I think, need to be real. I think in initially Kirti Bhai talked about share of GDP. While we are talking about big money, we also need to realize the share of GDP transfer to cities still remains 0.13%. So structurally unchanged. So I think that's a big issue. While we talk about big number, we need to be sure about it. So again, you did talk about that we have enough ingredients, but we also need to look at based on these transitions happening. what is the number of people we are actually trying to serve in the whole. I think urbanization premium is a great thing, but it depends on quantity matches the scale of demand. I think that's the where we need to really think about. Uh, my third point, which is on capacities of the cities, because everything depends on the cities, and they are the people who have to implement that. And we all know that cities are very different levels of systems, staffing, financial management. So, as you also said, and I think the cities which are strong, they will definitely perform, and your performance grant goes to them. So, whole equity issue, how will you look at it? Maybe the impact may be front loaded in stronger cities, and we are also seeing the evolving cities in the capacities, and also will these ingredients uh, help if our kitchen is not perfect and kitchen is not ready. If the kitchen is not ready, whatever best ingredients you bring on the table, I know if I don't have a right equipments to cook your ingredients, I may not be able to make it. So I think the opportunity is right, but we need to build a capacity along it. And you cannot just say that opportunity unless you create that system to really bring the right kitchen, right skills. Because we are talking about water, sanitation, so we have been talking about it and number of time. You can change the numbers, but the question is, end of the day, it is delivering results, and are we ready with delivering results, or we wait what happens to 15th finance mission. I was just looking at some reports, if I could get, and I think you may be much more enamored, what money was allocated to 15th finance mission, was that utilized, how much percentage was utilized. I couldn't find that thing, that so what is that learning we learned, how much of percentage was totally utilized. I didn't get anything while I was working on it today morning. So maybe I think I'll leave it to you. Maybe you want better. Third is on the fourth is on the governance aspects. I think we all talk about, and you said cities are expected to perform better. But you and I think Kirti Bhai also said, definitely a lot of things are cities are expected to perform, but it's not only the center; it's also the state has to incentivize cities. We always talk about 74th Amendment, where saying center is not giving power, but urban is a state subject, and state has to really look at it. A lot of these decisions, if you really look at it, property tax or others, own source revenue depends on the state rather than on the center. So I think, again, I'll come back to my own thought. You have ingredients. You might say that, with this, the capacities will be, kitchen will be okay. But who will control the stove? I think that has to be also looked at it. Unless my ingredients are kitchenware, but I look at the state and they don't do it. I think the whole horizontal vertical integration has to be really thing. And cities need both incentives. Definitely, they need incentives, but they also need an ability to act upon it, those incentives. So I think the coordination across upper and lower levels has to be thing. So we need to be really sure that are we strengthening the state to city systems, then only the real change will happen. We only talk about center to city systems, and we forget about a cities thing, because as you are already talked about, and I will not get into that, that lot of decisions of own source revenues and others still remain political, and they remain at a state level rather than the cities as well. One point which I just wanted to say, while we are talking about it, that you did talk about it in between. Uh, we are trust, here in this sense, we trust cities to spend money. With you saying that untied grant and other things, I think, while this is a good step, we also need to that we need to start trusting them in making decisions also. I think that has, it's not only one trusting to spend, but also trusting to make decisions. And lastly, which I'll finally stop, and I think Kirti Bhai will get angry if I take more time. Will this all translate to a better cities? Will I'm and at the end of the day, it is the final dish. You might give me a good recipe, you might give me a good ingredient, you might serve it better, you might do it a good plating also for me. But it's like when I eat, it should taste good. And end of the day, that's where we need to really look at it. And outcomes depends on how do we bring all of this together. Uh, these cannot be just an isolated reforms. We always do water mein paisa kharch kar diya, isme kharch kar diya. City is a very complex system. How this complex system works is where the recipe works together. How does it bring together? Financing definitely is a necessary step, but I I think while we work about financing, we always talk about governance systems. And I particularly think that it's if we want our cities to be a financial entities, the way we are thinking, bankable projects. I think we need to start looking at cities as a corporate entities. Then we need to start thinking of their governance models also. What type of governance is the right governance model at this time? Or we are just pumping money and without knowing how it will get spent, and cities absorption capacities and other things has to be looked at it. And I particularly think that while you give money, the absorption capacity is very weak. So how do you really bring that thing? So I'll just feel that while commission, I agree with you, is the right direction. I think the more focus has to be more on capacities, alignment, and the systems. Unless we create those systems in place, put in the place, I think we will not get the right dish out from the city. So I think the outcomes will only follow. As you say, crystal grazing will happen. While we need to look at it, what will follow, I think we need to really think about how do we put this opportunity to work in the kitchen and get the right dish out. So I'll stop here. I hope it makes some sense. Thank you very much. And great presentation once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
It makes lots of sense, Hitesh Bhai. And I think I really like this very much, this 5 things that we talk about: the direction, scale, capacity, governance, and outcome sort of a thing. It's a very interesting matrix to look at the whole things that Ravi Saab, I think, presented. And it makes the debate very interesting and rich, in terms of looking at the whole thing holistically. So thank you very, very much. I just wanted to kind of, before I tend to forget, I'm a very old man and I forget things. So before I forget, let me ask this question. This is what I wanted to ask you at the end, but I'm asking it here so that because I fear I'll forget it. I've been pushing for last several years that the country should set up the National Commission on Urbanization. I'm very fond of it. I thought wonderful work happened, I think, 35, 40 years ago. Cities have come to a stage, urbanization has come to a stage where we need to rethink about everything. And I thought, we should really have a National Commission on Urbanization. And after thought, I also started pushing in the whole idea of State Commission on Urbanization. And I made a presentation to Kerala government, made it to Tamil Nadu government, spoke to Gujarat government and all that. And I'm personally very keen to kind of, when you're talking about, from center to the city, and in between that you're talking about the state and its role, I thought, there's a point one would like to be examined in the context of this hierarchy, this relationship, this transfers, and this role playing. So please find time to respond to this particular one, because I'm pushing this idea. With this thing, I think let me move to Astha ji. Astha ji, thank you very much for accepting this invitation. And it was very nice. And you said, look, you had a parallel meeting, but I'm very glad that you made time for this, came in. We look forward to hearing you, Astha ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirti sir, for the opportunity that you have provided me to be here. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be sharing this platform with people like Hitesh Vaidya sir and Dr. Ravikant Joshi. As a student in India, I have been, I grew up reading their work and listening to them on various forums. So it is exciting for me as an opportunity to be able to say things here. And most of it is already said. Ravikant ji, in his typical style, has presented a very detailed work with numbers and all the insights. And Hitesh sir has already raised those 5 very pertinent issues. What I'm going to say here might just be a repetition, but since it's not a repetition only on this platform, it has been a repetition in the entire discourse related to urban local body finances, some of the issues which are under addressed so far. So I will take this opportunity, even if it means repeating some of the things that are already said. I will talk about 3 main issues that I feel are under address so far. Is The first issue is the issue of fiscal autonomy. Hitesh sir already has said this, but I'm just reiterating, saying that successively it has happened that urban local bodies have to struggle with fiscal autonomy. The 16 Finance Commission numbers say that only 15%, the ULBs in general, are able to generate 51% of their revenue from own sources. And this drops to 35% when we talk about cities with population less than 5 lakhs. That means the dependence of cities on grants is somewhere in the range of 40 to 60%. What this does to the cities is not only it represents a lack of autonomy, but it also means that they have to work on pre-designed objectives and components. Hitesh sir was saying that cities should also be trusted to be able to make their own decisions, and it is not happening so far. And some of the data collected from CAG reports, performance audit reports, also shows that cities do not have enough own source revenue funds to even fulfill the establishment and O&M expenditure. They are using grants to pay salaries. So then we cannot think about capital investments being financed from these grants, which these grants are really meant for. So therefore, cities are neither fiscally autonomous nor are they functionally empowered to determine their own development. Solutions that quickly come to mind can be 2. One, the successive commissions have been talking about the first solution to have property tax reforms in place, but it's not happening even after successive pushes from all directions. And we all know in this forum that the most important issue is land records, property records, as well as the issue of valuation because of presence of these jantri rates or guidelines values or administrative rates being in place. Property valuation has always been an issue. In fact, MAHUA data quoted by the 16th Finance Commission report says that the number of states which were eligible for performance-based grants went down from 22 to 16 due to failure to meet mandatory property tax growth conditions. Ravikant sir presented data saying OSR has been growing at some rate, but small cities are struggling, sir. Most of these cities were cities with population below 1 lakh. So this raises the equity issue, as Hitesh sir has already said. The second way to deal with this could be to think about the assignment of tax base itself. What is it that the cities are allowed to tax? Right now, property tax is the most important source, and cities are really taxing the imputed rental income or the actual rental income in a way. I mean, in economics literature, we say the property value is the present, nothing but present value of all the future income streams that the property would generate. So in a way, the city is only allowed to tax the immovable property income generated out of that property in that city itself. But cities have been contributing to GDP. The economic survey this year says that cities' contribution to overall GDP of the country is around 70%. They are contributing to 70% GDP, but they are able to control resources in terms of their own sources only around 1%. So this is a large mismatch. They are not allowed to tax incomes generated locally. They are not allowed to tax goods and services transactions that are happening locally. And it's not only India. In many countries, these incomes are not taxed locally, but then there are formula-based systems to share the tax generated out of these incomes with the cities, which is something not happening in India so far. Cities have been also contributing to excise duty as well as the trade-related tax, custom duty, because most of the exports are generated in industrial clusters which are part of city systems. Most of the production for excise duty also happens using the infrastructure that is part of the city economic systems. So therefore, cities are generating this GDP, but they are not able to tax any of it. Central government taxes, state government taxes, which cities do not have any control over, and these are not being passed to cities in a formulaic manner. So some rethinking is required to either expand the tax base or to work at formulaic transfer of these taxes to cities. That brings me to my second point for this evening, which is state finance commissions were supposed to be those bodies which would work on this formula-based transfer of state taxes, stamp duties, and others to cities. But and again, in this forum, it probably is not very important to say, but I'll still say for the sake of putting a point in place, is that the constitutional design is very clear that local bodies are primarily the responsibility of state governments, and transfer from the union are meant to be supplementary in nature. So therefore, state finance commissions are supposed to be those key institutional mechanisms. Successive Central Finance Commission reports have highlighted all the issues with state finance commission. There are delays in their constitution, there's lack of uniformity in their method, approach, and coverage, and there are issues with weak data and analytical foundation. Therefore, most of the central finance commissions have said that they find these SFC reports have limited usability. And in fact, it goes to the extent of saying that the 16th Finance Commission report says that maybe the requirement itself may need to be reconsidered, as the requirement that as per Article 283, the finance commissions are required to base their recommendations on SFC reports. But 16th Finance Commission has put it on record saying probably we need to reconsider and this should be done away with through a constitutional amendment. And there also has been another mention in the 16th Finance Commission report where they've said Karnataka, during their deliberations with state governments, Karnataka government explicitly urged the removal of conditions such as mandatory constitution of state finance commissions and the audit of local body accounts. And several other states also have raised concerns regarding this. Now, this highlights a fundamental political economy constraint. If state finance commissions are done away with, then the very basis of the federal hierarchy would be broken. And we would probably enter an era of more top-down, top-driven devolution and grant-based system, which would probably not be desirable in the country. So therefore, what is required is that the framework and methodology for formation and recommendations of state finance commissions should be standardized, and the data systems have to be strengthened, rather than saying that we should do away with this, because it is a constitutional norm and it is based on the very nature, the backbone of our federal structure. The third point that I want to make here is, and Ravikant sir already has spoken about it, that the lack of performance-based audit, performance audit systems, in order to be able to speak here today, I was trying to find out, are there any reports specifically talking about performance audit of grants given by finance commissions, successive finance commissions, how the ULBs have been using these? And I'm sure it would not come to most of us as a surprise that I could not find any. The only report that I could find was pertaining to Assam. That also was 13th and 14th Finance Commission grants. How have those been utilized? Only for one state. I could not find it for the states. What were available were state finance reports, but those were not directly talking about performance from the grant money that was received. So so whatever I'm quoting here is from that Assam report, but those are very generalizable, and in in various discourses we have been hearing about some of these issues. There were these usual issues highlighted, such as non-utilization of grants and blockage of fund, delays in release of grants by state governments, non-submission of utilization certificates, and underutilization of funds. All these are generalizable, and we've been hearing about these. What caught my eye was something which was, so we differentiate between this general basic grant and general performance based grant. And the CAG report says that these performance grants are conditional. Most ULBs were unable to meet these conditions. These grants for those particular years were provided for 4 basic core services: water supply, sanitation, sewerage, and solid waste management. And whereas the report says most of the cities use these funds for road construction and repairs and maintenance of departmental vehicles, and not that they did not need these funds. The report itself says that only 5 out of 23 ULBs were providing water supply services adequately. Only 2 were providing sewerage services. Solid waste record was a little better, but the drainage record also was extremely limited. So they were not providing these services, and these grants were provided, but they did not use the grants for the stated purpose. They used those grants for road maintenance and other projects, and it is very well mentioned in the CAG report. It is there out in the public domain. So now this raises issues. Who's determining these priorities, and are the priorities determined by Finance Commission aligned with local priorities? Who's defining basic services, and are these, there is clearly a mismatch somewhere. And the other aspect that the report highlighted was the conditionality to avail performance-based grant was to undertake property tax reforms and increase OSR, own sources revenue. Most of the ULBs could not do that. So repeatedly, if reforms are not taking place, despite there being incentives, should there be a penal structure? Should there be a rethinking around it? Time and again, year over year, we are seeing the same outcomes. So where are these issues? Is the issue capacity? Is the issue design? Is the issue feasibility? And the third aspect is, why are we not incorporating these audit learnings into policy design? If it is available to me on a one-day search, if I could find these issues, I'm sure, and the commission and the other esteemed panels, the government level, they are aware of these issues. Why are we not raising these, and why are we not talking about some of these issues? That brings me to the last point that I wanted to make, is that then I started thinking about, how does the Finance Commission decide how much to assign to each city for providing these basic services? Because we do not have expenditure norms. The last expenditure norms that we had were 1963 Zakaria Committee norms. After that, nobody has ever worked on finding out how much money is required on a per capita basis to provide these services at the city level. What we have are service level benchmarks, but those are outcome based. We do not have benchmarks for expenditure. The high-powered committee worked out some investment numbers, but those are capital expenditure numbers. Those there also they did not provide O&M numbers. So unless we know how much is needed to be spent, how can we allocate money just by saying that every city? And 16 Finance Commission also saying the same thing. They are saying drainage is our priority, and therefore there is this money. This should only be used for drainage, and we will wait for another 8 to 10 years to have performance audit from CAG on this money, and then we will still say that so many cities do not have drainage. So how to find, so this is a vicious sort of cycle, where to find the the space to break that vicious cycle and say, oh, now this is working. Hitesh sir said the same thing. Think, when would we see that things are finally working? That is, these are some of the concerns that come to mind when one starts analyzing, the details and the numbers. So I would just sum up by saying that to my mind, there are these three main issues: limited fiscal autonomy that has to be addressed, the weak structure architecture in terms of how are we really addressing the spirit of constitution, the federal structure, and absence of norms, expenditure norms that can become the strong link between the funding and outcomes. Because I looked at the objectives of CAG performance audit report, and they said three objectives: to assess whether allocation, release, and utilization of funds followed guidelines, whether implementation aligned with intended purpose, and whether effective monitoring mechanisms existed. But they did not say how much of the outcomes were actually generated, how many people were provided with water supply, or if in terms of linking it back with service level benchmarks or linking back with other sort of norms that exist. So that is the third need, to start talking about performance audit and start talking about measuring the outcomes. And then for the future exercises of devolution and distribution of grants, those numbers can really become the benchmark or basis. So with this, I end my comments here. Thank you so much, sir, and I look forward to participation further here.
Thank you, Astha ji. I think you raised so many issues and so many pertinent issues that I'm sure both Ravikant ji and Hitesh I think, would be reconsidering the timetable. And what I wanted to say was this, that don't worry about how long does it take, but these are very important questions and issues which need to be, I think, looked into and answered. So what I suggest is this, that let Ravikant ji take both from Hitesh ji and Astha ji and really kind of respond. And then, of course, we have Hitesh ji and Astha ji back, in terms of responding to that. We already, time 7:30 is over. Don't worry about running half an hour more. This is a very rich and very important discussion, and we are not going to have such opportunities again. So please accept, my liberal use of the time. Please go ahead and say your things. Thank you very much. Ravikant sir first.
Okay. Thank you, Hitesh ji. Thank you, Astha ji. Nice discussions, and then very pertinent point, as Kirti bhai said. Kirti bhai, all these issues cannot be covered, even if you will have to go for an additional webinar, which you will certainly design. But let me answer 2-3 very important questions or issues which has been raised. First, one of the issue Hitesh raised is, beside I agree with what really requires the direction, scale, fall capacity, output, outcome, all those 5 points, correct, he has raised. But issue is that, see, Central Finance Commission mandate is just to look at and give the data. Of course, what the issues, certain issues Astha ji has raised, the better cognizance can be taken by the Finance Commission. But Finance Commission is not permanent thing. It comes, it provides whatever limited time it has. It tries to grasp the situation with all the limitation of data, all the lack of outcome, data, service level data, everything, and it has to come out with certain things. Of course, it can be much take the cognizance of the various other issues, but I will come to that. But what Hitesh ji pointed out is what a equity issue. There is always a dichotomy and a great discussion between equity versus the merit. Always we have taken a approach towards the equity more rather than efficiency. It is the first time 16th Central Finance Commission is trying to bring in 10% weightage for the OSR efficiency. Earlier, I said that their calculation table which they have provided, how much each states will get, you will say 5 states are gaining, where historically these local bodies are strong, better economy of that states, better economy of those cities. I would say that, in fact, those cities are not delivering to their capacity. The point yesterday I made that you are capable of scoring 90% mark, but you are passing at a 40% and you are rewarded. Yes, that anomaly is there. But somewhere a small initiation towards the merit to incentivize others to aspire to improve, I think that small dose is perfect. Though, yes, equity aspect would get little bit dented because of that. But proverbially everywhere, even smart city mission or city challenge fund, every mission we thought initially of a merit-based structure. Then we ended up with the equity-based structure only and doling out a rationing kind of a thing. There has to be some element which is based with the point you have also raised in other direction, and Asthaji, is the performance. Now, how to incentivize performance unless until you give discount to the merit into your structure? So removing the area, because area is a misnomer. Population is a concrete thing. Area is a concrete thing, but area is a decision where I have seen certain cities which have unnecessary large area compared to their population. And then there are cities which in India which are very compact, means high population but very compact area. So that also was creating anomaly. And always no indicator, what we call inter se indicators in public finance, horizontal distribution indicators or vertical indicators, they are not perfect. Because 10% weightage to the area was also creating anomaly. Here there is a one attempt that 10% will be to the performance or OSR improvement. So I feel that let's see how this 10% tweaking towards the merit concept or efficiency concept, what would be the impact. At the moment, we are not able to know that what will be the exact result of it, but there is nothing wrong in trying that. Then what rest of the things which are you are saying of cooking the dish is really all other institutions' responsibility, right? From central government has much less, but then state governments. It is the state government which will have to ensure. And it's not a permanent commission. Central Finance Commission has given some direction, maybe not absolutely perfect, but taking that and how that can be made good of it. That is the responsibility of the local bodies. That is the responsibility of central government. That is the responsibility of the local governments, whatever they are getting. So all those issues really important. Who gives the direction? It is the state which has to give, because it's a transferred responsibility to the local government. As per constitution, local governments are not independent. Only they have existence ensured, not functions and finance. All prerogative is with the state government. Or what should be the scale, capacity, output, outcome, all that state will have to play a big role. Then coming to because I can't address all coming to the Asthaji's point. Again, Asthaji, whatever most of the issues you have raised about performance audit or implementation, more responsibility. And then you have said how this money is given. See, yes, I agree with you that there should be normative standards, and on basis of normative standards, the entire thing should be worked out. But there are no normative standards worked out. At that time, then Central Finance Commission has only way out to think that, okay, what could be the benchmarks or what could be the indicators on which basis I will allocate the money. And then it should be utilized by the local government and state government. Yes, we agree that after HPC, nobody has tied and we do not have normative standards, and therefore comes the gap filling approach. But still, even 16th Central Finance Commission and earlier Finance Commission also has denounced this gap filling approach. That gap filling approach should not be there. But they are constrained. Neither State Finance Commission reports are of quality. Originally, 74th Constitution Amendment says that Central Finance Commission has to take cognizance of State Finance Commission reports and to give money. If Central Finance Commission will wait for that, they will not be able to give anything, because none of the State Finance Commission report, barring one or two or three, is credible, or that have academic robust discipline, correct, in their calculations and all that, as you rightly pointed, and many reports have pointed out everything. So Central Finance Commission hands are limited, wherein if you are on the Central Finance Commission with all this limitation of data and everything, you are confined to look into that, okay, what could be then indicator? Population. Bigger the population, you need more money, that city. So let's take a population benchmark. Earlier, 11, 12, 13 tried with the various indicators, but then they realized the futility of it. Devolution index, decentralization index, and then 14 Central Finance Commission adopted area and population only. Then 15 continued, and 16 has just tweaked that instead of area, which is again an anomaly because there is no state rules, but how much should be the area of the city vis-a-vis the population. And again, there is a geographical delineation. You can't have that kind of a thing. So they have tried with the merit. So their hands are constrained, and Central Finance Commission has to go and then decide two indicators that how much city should get. I do agree that they could take cognizance, and conditionality is always in public finance theory also, everyone should not be there. But just giving the money in public finance theory also, just giving entirely untied grant in the hands of local bodies, there are perils of not correct use of it. So there has to be a very fine balance between the conditionalities and non-conditionality. And you can see that there has been oscillation. In 15 Central Finance Commission, we find a lot of conditionalities and actual tied grant going down to the 21%. Also, misnomer air pollution function comes into it, getting the grants, which is constitutionally also not function and in any terms of the municipal body. So there is no set pattern in that across the world. We oscillate between the equity versus efficiency, conditionality versus non-conditionality, tied versus non-tied. A fine balance may emerge from this churning. We are still finding. But by and large, I find that 16 Central Finance Commission has gone more towards the non-conditionality, unconditional share of the unconditional grant more. Yes, they have state performance grant and local government performance grant of 29,000 crore and 29,000 crore, correct? Or they coming out with the wastewater, but that's not a case for 22 cities. Essentially, they have said that 60% should be untied and 40% tied, but local autonomy to use it as per local needs. That's their role. They did. Now that money getting effectively used is to be seen by state government and all the audit apparatus. As you rightly point, CAG report you got of Assam. Why can't we have CAG and local audit doing such kind of a performance auditing? Who stops that? It is not a function of Central Finance Commission. Your point is pertinent, but it is the job of state government and central government to create that kind of discipline. Therefore, it is talking that there should be third-party independent evaluation of the state service level benchmark. 15 Central Finance Commission put the condition that 45 cities, metropolitan cities, should publish service level benchmark. You know, service level benchmarks were collected, but not published. Who did not publish? Government. Only Andhra Pradesh government has published performance report of service level benchmark, which was pointed out by 15 Central Finance Commission. All other 43 cities data was collected by the respective governments, but not put into the domain. So 16 Finance Commission has to come and say that now put that transparently into domain, asking MAUA to create a third-party independent evaluation or audit mechanism. But Central Finance Commission can't go beyond it. It's not an executive body. It's a recommendatory body. It can take more and more cognizance of issues, correct? So also then 15 Central Finance Commission brought in, say, annual financial statement should be published. we created cityfinance.org. Now, to get the grant, for the first time, 4,000 cities. In my whole life, I've never seen, there is a database of 4,000 cities annual financial statements on the portal. But they are garbage, most of that. Now, who to ensure that? The audit wing of the government. Every state has a local fund audit department. There is a CAG. There are other institutions. So we haven't created validation mechanism for that. Yesterday also. So the issues which you are rightly pointing out, and if as we are doing crystal gazing, we can say whatever 16th Central Finance Commission has suggested can turn nil as a crystal gazing if we fail to create, means the responsible institutions and the government fail to create the following these aspects. The point of performance, no municipal act provides for even cost audit or performance-based audit. Government of India publishes outcome budget. At least it is there. There is a midterm framework. And we can see the outcome budget, and every year finance minister provides the outcome budgeting report. Where is the outcome budgeting mandated for municipal bodies? No. Even today, we are still not clear who should be auditing these municipal accounts, how they should be audited, how they should be published. There is no penalty clause if accounts are not published. Even I have seen some of the incidences where bank reconciliation statement has been uploaded to get the grant instead of annual financial statement. Who is looking it? No, just so sometimes it is what happened, just a checkbox ticking approach in entire administration. And that will undone any good this thing. So any good recommendation will get undone by just not going by the letter and spirit and just by going by checkbox, or it can enhance also the a mistake by commission. It can amplify that mistake by this thing. So both things happen because of this whole. So I think I will not dwell much into it because that whole this issue would require a different kind of a discussion. At the moment, my own verdict or own assessment is that 16th Central Finance Commission, in tradition with earlier Central Finance Commission, has certainly taken a step forward. In fact, about 14th Central Finance Commission, I had written article that 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. At least that kind of a thing. Or 15th Central Finance Commission was also not there. At least it has undone the aspect which were introduced by earlier 2 commissions. And so after 13, again, we are seeing 16th Central Finance Commission at least setting the things right. Its success, not in his Finance Commission hand, is totally dependent on the people who will be implementing it. They will amplify its missed out point, or they may also succeed it. I will stop here. Last point which Kirti Bhai raised about National Commission on Urbanization. National Commission on Urbanization for preparing the report, not necessary. It will be like, report will be prepared but will not be implemented the way it is happening with various commissions. Some part get implemented. What we require is a permanent National Commission or overseeing body at a national level, which will continuously look at all these policy aspects, all the implementation aspect, an independent body which will be looking at all the cities, all the SFC reports, all the policy decisions by the central government about urban, all state decisions, and will give not a regulatory body, but it will at least give an opinion on it, corrective measure on it. So something like that kind of a permanent a body of experts, practitioners, which will be overseeing all these things, which will stop or at least give a concrete, like Niti Aayog. It should be something that kind of, or it can be a role of a Niti Aayog, like that kind of, who will continuously monitor. Because yes, as I yesterday made a point, we need a war footing address to all urban problems. Otherwise, Vikasit Bharat will be a dream, cannot be achieved. We need to address our cities not on piecemeal basis, not on band-aid basis. At every level, there is a problem, and every level there has to be a mission, war footing mission, to address our urban problems. They are not one, they are all interlinked and they are massive. I will stop here. Thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Thank you to the Hitesh ji and Astha ji for raising pertinent point. I was not in position to give justice to all. And also I'm not that expert or capable of giving justice to that, but they are nonetheless very pertinent point which all need to ponder over, think about over that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think over to you, Hitesh ji. You will have a lot to say.
No, I think because of time, I think Ravi bhai, we definitely agree with you on a lot of points. I do agree that we may not have answers to something, but what my point was, while we have a direction, only financial like architecture will not make any change unless you change the governance architecture, and
Absolutely.
that is where my thing. Just putting money and is not the only solution. You need to really think about our governance architecture, and that is where the both has to go together. And that was my only point. While we have this is a 16th finance has given a thing. If we are really want to make it happen, then we have to start thinking of governance architecture
Absolutely.
much more strongly than just looking at this. And second point, which I do agree that while we have to this to happen is I'll go back to the Kirti Bhai's thing. While Kirti Bhai, you are absolutely right on National Commission of Urbanization. I will again, being a state subject, and I'm working on a different states on their policy. I think we are going to dissect the urban animal without having a diagnosis of it. We don't have a diagnosis, so we start dissecting without diagnosing it, and we start telling people that okay, this is shortcut, this is shortcut. I think the time has come, and I definitely see 74th Amendment. It's no use to talk about it anymore. Further 30 years have gone, but I think time has come to rethink and revisit what is that we want to do. And I think state picking up like Gujarat is doing high power committee on urbanization. Every state has to come up with their urban thing. It might be getting aggregated at a national, because right now we don't know. We all look at national commission and we still don't know where is the direction of urbanization, whether it's increasing towards south, it is increasing towards which are our manufacturing districts coming up, which are our industrial sites coming up. We all are guessing it, without having a clear study. And I think rather than at a national level, we need to really think about that at a state level now. And as I was saying, state has to take up a much more stronger role for urbanization and work with their cities rather than leaving it to the center, because center as thing can create only enabling frameworks. Center cannot decide totally, and it has to be state subject. And that's why I said it's not a game of a chess right now with the missions happening, is that everything is decided at the center level, where to wing, and the cities, our role is only to respond to that game. I'll move from here to think you can only walk 2 miles. This can walk. That's the only way cities have to do, and they are not doing anything else. Now, so that's my thing. And third, which even though missions have given a lot of incentives, I think we have brought the role of mission was to bring cities to a level where start thinking. And I think with the JNNURM and Smart City, Amrut, things have happened. I think now this mission approach has to come out, because a lot of this initiative incentives got killed because of the mission, because all the cities are only working how to respond to the mission guidelines, mission TORs, mission DPRs. Nobody is thinking at city as a whole. So I think it has to be a demand-based approach, and we need to create our missions in such a way that it comes from the demand from the state and cities. And cities make their demand to state hook up, and they can then unlock the center funds which we can pull it together. So I think that type of a approach has to come up, and that has to come up with what you call it diagnostic approach, where it has to be more evidence based at a city level and state level, rather than the doing a one big national study which will not lead to much of a thing. So that's where I stop here. But thank you, Ravi Bhai. As I again will say that your presentation was a really eye-opening, and as a student, I learned quite a bit on that. And thank you for answering. And I know, I'll my pet dialogue, which I say, and Kirti Bhai has listened, but I'll repeat it for the sake of repeating it. We all are like Arjuna sitting on the battlefield of Mahabharata. We don't know where to hit, how to hit, and why should we hit at all. I know we are all. He had at least Krishna to give him a gyan of Gita. We have you as our Krishna to give us and take us forward and give us those things with others. So I think thank you for imagine, but we need to create as an urban mafia. We need to create our own Gita to move forward. So thank you very much, and over to you, Kirti Bhai.
No, before that, I think Astha ji, you want to say anything to add to this?
Uh, Thank you, sir. For the want of time, and I would very quickly, briefly just mention one point after Dr. Joshi and Hitesh sir already have spoken, that I really respected the way Ravikant sir drew the boundaries around, how much can we expect from one finance commission alone. There has been a history, and there is a constitutional mandate. So yes, respecting that very much, considering that 16 Finance Commission, given their time constraint, could do only whatever they could. And there were many good things that they tried to do, increasing the total volume of grants coming to cities, having more untied grants, etc. But I would want to still raise one point that was very much within their purview of doing, and they could have done. In the report, they mention that urbanization is an imperative, and they talk about agglomeration economies, and they talk about how cities generate economic growth and productivity. It is just a thought. Could they not have included level of urbanization or some such performance-based incentive as one of the core criteria for devolution of funds from the center to the state? That would give a very strong message to the state government that you have to now be very serious about urbanization. As Hitesh sir is saying, it has to be taken up at the states level. States have to take command, but that message has to come from somewhere, and 16 Finance Commission had that opportunity. Professor Pangaria has written, he's saying that, urbanization is the way to go. He's saying that in order to even improve agricultural productivity, land per farmer has to go up. The availability of land per farmer has to go up. And for that, the surplus labor has to be shifted from the villages to the cities. Migration has to happen. And for that, in cities, secondary and tertiary sectors have to be strengthened. He's saying all this in the report. The report is saying all this. So if they are saying this, they could have created those right incentives somewhere for that urbanization narrative to be hammered to the states, saying you have to do it. That's the last point with which I would like to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely very rich dialogue and discussions, and of course we are about half an hour beyond our limits. I still, Ravikant ji, Hitesh Bhai, and Astha ji, I may not have this opportunity. So I want to ask a stupid-looking question at the end. Ravi ji, you talked about this whole instance of air pollution and the money which was given and not used because air pollution is not a mandatory function of the local bodies. Now, the mandatory functions and the voluntary functions were decided long time ago when there was a limited view of a city. We're talking about city as a place to live with dormitory, and therefore we're talking about water and sanitation and conservancy and all that. Well, and life has changed so dramatically. And I personally feel time has come where we got to kind of look at the large. You yourself were talking about this yesterday. That where are we investing? I think in economic growth. We are still talking about I think planning, which is a land use planning. We're talking about in a very limited context. And I think time has come where I think, and I think there is no other. And I think, I find this out. Bhumaji is there. I think, listening to this, we're doing, this sustainable urban employment guarantee scheme. And we feel that, it should be handled by a municipal corporation. But the first question is, where does municipal corporation has the capacity to handle it? Is not able to handle its water. How would it handle the whole new area of poverty alleviation or dealing with the poverty issues? So what I'm trying to say is this, that why do we take a static view, institutional view of local self-government? Why couldn't really kind of be seen as an emerging, what is the new role of the municipal corporation in the context of new challenges, in the context of new paradigms that must be, I think, handled? So that's the question. And I thought, I won't get such brilliant three people to answer it. So we'll ask us. Please take 1 minute, no minute, but please tell me what you think.
Functional delineation, functional delineation will have to be redrawn naturally as the things move, as the society progress, state progress. But I was quoting air pollution in a sense that giving money to city, it's not function. Basically, it doesn't have regulatory power. A municipal officer can't go and stop the air pollution created by the vehicles or air pollution created by the industry, anything. So that function, even if it is a voluntary function and important, a municipal body cannot implement it because it doesn't have governance power with that. It is with the pollution control board. It is with the traffic police. So even if that money is to be given, give it to the state government rightly, and then they will be able to give it to the pollution control board, which are the regulatory agencies to monitor that, not to the municipal bodies. So it was a misplacement of that because it doesn't have any wherewithal. So let's hope someday this functional delineation will be redrawn. We are still contemplating what 18 functions 74th Constitutional Amendment listed. Out of that, still not given to the municipal bodies. So one day, again, redrawn, things will have to be redrawn. I will stop here. It's a big issue.
Thank you.
No policy decided for that.
Thank you, Hitesh. Will you say anything on that?
No, I do agree. What I think we need to really go back to the drawing board to really understand. See, role of a cities have changed, as you are rightly pointed out. The air quality, the climate change, the economic role of a city was not that. Manufacturing was not there. So if we can go with the those 18 functional don't remain anyway sacrosanct now. And that is what I always feel, that while we are looking at it, it's time to revisit. Maybe we can look at what works, what does not work, and what is the politically acceptable in the polity, and that's where the role of governance based on that has to be really revisited. While we are talking about urbanization becoming and that's while we are becoming 50%, and when they were drawn, the urbanization was only 20-30%, not less than that. And now we have seen such a structural shift. So in that way, we have to really relook at it, whether we are, what is that change we need to do if this structure from 20% to 50% urban has becoming, we need to really think about it. And while we are talking about, and again, go back to Ravi Bhai's question, when our mentality always, while we talk about urban growing 50%, our fiscal federalism still says rural first. So that has to also come up, urban first, actually. And that's where the thing will change. The money will divide, and the role of a city has to be really looked at. Its spatial geography has to be really re-looked at. Its relationship with urban, peri-urban, and a regional approach which we are looking at. It has to be re-looked at. Heat was not an issue. Air quality is now everybody's talking about urban heat. And you look at any heat action plans, you will feel that I should pick up those plans and throw into a dustbin. But the question is that why are we making all of that? So that we need to really, and that's where I say it's a larger issue. Step back. We need a time to rethink and revisit our with the urbanization changing with the 50%. Do we need the same governance structure, or we need to revisit the governance structure? So I stop here. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think Astha ji, whether you wanted to add something to this.
Sir, very quickly, I would just want to add one line to what you said, is that we have to start looking at, and Hitesh sir already said this, that we need to start looking at cities as systems, economic systems. So the city region approach beyond the administrative boundaries of, municipal corporations, urban development authorities, and districts. What really works for the economy to grow has to be thought about. One very quick example is when students working with me were looking at employment in one particular city in India, and we wanted to get data. So we could get data from this PLFS survey, periodic labor force survey, and then they came across this annual survey of industries data, and they came to me very excited saying, ma'am, we got 2 different data sources and these will match. I said, forget it, these will never match. So at that level, we have to start looking at numbers and parameters and start collecting data about cities as systems. Then we can probably think of better governance, better planning, better management and administration. Thank you.
Thank you. We have to stop, but I think, Bomaji, I saw there's just one question. You want to look at that? And I think, just take 1 minute, Bomaji.
Yes. There is one question. There was one actually, productivity, and
No, I have answered all the questions online.
Okay.
There was he was asking production link. Then I said production is not the issue at the municipal level. Yes, water is the produce by the municipal level, but delivery is the issue. So performance based or service level is the indicator which should be utilized.
Okay.
So in the end, I can say at the way thing as earlier said yesterday in this, and Hitesh said, putting money on the table is not enough. The 16th Central Finance Commission has put money on the table, rightly or wrongly. How to better utilize it is the governance issue, which Hitesh has rightly said. And there is a real governance deficiency which need to overcome. Yesterday also, same thing we discussed, that central government put the money in its budget, but it didn't got utilized. So just putting the money is not going to solve our urban problem. I will stop here. Thank you. Thank you for this 2-day series to put forward my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ravi Saab. I think we couldn't have learned more than I think in the last 2 days. And Hitesh ji, I'm going to call you 7 o'clock in the morning because we have incomplete business of organizing 2 more webinars that you're supposed to lead. If you don't mind, I'm going to call you in the morning. So thank you very much. It was remarkable.
Sure, definitely.
It was very rich in every conceivable way. I'm very glad that we thought about this, and I'm very glad that Raviji immediately agreed, and we put this together in less than a week's time. And this was also rare, I think, that we do 3 events on subsequent days. We have done 1, 2, and then we have one tomorrow, and then we have a day's gap, and then we have one on the 9th. So I think it's a fairly interesting. We're learning a lot, and many thanks for your time. Many thanks for your contribution, and many thanks for ideas that you have given. We will think about this more. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ravi Bhai. Thank you, Astha. Thank you, Kirti Bhai.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to all.
Thank you.